Hi everyone, Peter here once again. Thanks for joining me on my channel. This is Thailand Bound. Okay, before I get into today's content, I just want to very quickly tell you about a couple of things. I've had quite a few comments from people who think that the Nat and Dave series is over, and I was kind of trying to figure out why that was, because last week was the 10th episode and I didn't know why everybody thought it had finished, but then I never got any comments on the 1 to 9 series. And somebody pointed out to me at the end of each Nat and Dave animation video, at the end it said to be continued, but on the last one, number 10, last week, it said the end. So this is why a lot of you guys thought it was the end. It's not the end. I've discussed it with Simon and we're going to try and come up with a bit of a different story now between us. Simon makes the animations, but we're going to kind of make the story go in a different way, because Nat is the main character, and if we carry on, she just scams another guy. It's exactly the same story, but with another person. It's going to get stale. So we've had some brainstorming. We've got some good ideas. So we're going to keep this series going, even though it's only once a month. We'd like to keep it going because a lot of guys like it. The second thing I'd like to talk to you about very quickly. Did you see the guest I had on? I had Michael Parrott on again. We did a discussion about why so many guys fall under the charms of Thai bar girls, and we had a 30-minute discussion on that. I'm intending to bring Michael back because some of you like these conversations, openly discussing this kind of content. Okay, so we're not here for that today. I'm here to read out 3 viewer stories. These are great stories. I hope you're going to enjoy these, so I won't waste any more of your time. Let's get straight into this first story.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Back in 2010, after my divorce to my wife of 18 years, I was in a bit of a slump. My sister told me about when she was in Thailand 5 years before, so with that, I booked and paid for 2 tickets to Koh Samui and the accommodation for 10 days. I decided to take my sister, as she had been looking after me, letting me stay at her place while I got my life back on track. As soon as I left the aircraft at Koh Samui, I was hit with the heat and the humidity. I booked rooms at the Koh Samui Yacht Club. We arrived about 4:30 p.m, got a taxi to the yacht club, unpacked and showered as I was already hot and sweaty. It was about 6 p.m. and my sister dragged me out to expose me to the nightlife. The sights, the smells, the noise and people, so wonderful. We jumped into a tuk-tuk, my sister doing the bartering. We arrived at the main street of Chawang and my sister says, right, a massage first. Until now, I have never had a professional massage. We walked along the street and my sister is talking and negotiating with different girls on prices and time. Quite frankly, I was rather embarrassed at this, as I was calculating the exchange rates in my head and prices were low. Anyway, we got a good price for both of us for the hour. So I am ushered into a little cubicle and told to strip. I was given a piece of towel no bigger than a face cloth. So this very attractive Thai girl comes in and tells me to lay face down. At this stage, I still have my boxers on. She promptly asks me to remove them. What's going on, I think to myself. She tells me it's okay in really good English. Then she places a towel over my backside and starts a massage. Oh, what heaven. She has her fingers, thumbs and elbows into me, and it was great. Then she proceeds to hop on top of the bed and walk up and down my spine, popping it as she went along. It was so good. She was only about 45 kilos in weight, so all good. Feeling satisfied and relaxed, the lady asked me to roll over and face up. I do as I'm asked and cover my manhood with a cloth. She then grabbed me in another area that I did not expect and started to do something I don't think YouTube will allow me to explain, but I'm sure your viewers will get the picture. Whoa, whoa, I told her. She said, you know what? No, I said, massage only. I'm still laying on the bench almost naked while she continues with a regular massage. A few more times she tried to start the special massage and again I said no thank you. We finished the massage and I tip her 100 baht. I didn't know then how much to tip the girls back then, but 100 baht seemed fair. So massage paid for, I went with my sister who was waiting outside chatting with the other girls. We were both feeling jet lagged, so we decided to have a nice meal and an early night so we would wake up fresh for the next day. About 8 a.m. the next morning, my sister is at the door banging away to wake me up. She's been up since the crack of dawn and has a day's sightseeing all lined up. So we hire 2 motorcycles and off we go to explore the island. That day we explored the Big Buddha, the shops and the wharf, had lunch and then off to the rum factory there where we sampled a few too many rum products. After dinner that night we headed out to a few bars. Now I must admit I was naive about the bar girls. So at one bar I'm talking to a few of the girls and I bought a few lady drinks when my sister comes over and has a chat with me about how things work in the bars with the girls. I start chatting to this girl called Tum. Here we are playing Connect 4, Jackpot and Jenga, and after a while she asks me if I want her to come back with me to my hotel. I thought to myself, why not? I'm on holiday and I'm now single. Yes, I would like her to come back to my hotel for drinks. In the morning she left my room with a nice tip and motorcycle taxi money. My sister called my room and asked me to meet her downstairs. When I met her she said, today we're going to the zoo. The zoo was a huge disappointment. The most exciting bit was when a cat that was walking along a wall fell into the crocodile enclosure. There were plenty of snapping jaws, but the cat luckily escaped in one piece. There were about a dozen or so other tourists at the zoo, English, German and Russians mostly. This guy then brings out some snakes, a few pythons and several cobras of various sizes. The guy walks around the area with a huge cobra in hand with its hood fully open. Everyone bails to the rear seats except me and my sister. We have seen plenty of snakes grown up in Australia. That night we went to a nightclub, the Ice Bar from memory. There we met some lovely local girls. I bought a few buckets of Mai Tais and danced the early hours away. My sister met a Swiss guy who was buying her drinks. After a few drinks I could see that my sister looked like she was going to pass out. Something was definitely wrong. My sister is very good at holding her alcohol. Now this Swiss guy moves in. I'll take care of her, he tells me. I tell him no, I'll take her back to the yacht club. He tries to take her off my hands. I can see where this is leading. I'm 6'1" and at the time about 125 kg. So I tower over him by at least 6 inches and I outweigh him by about 30 kilos. But still he tries to take her off me. So I was forced to muscle up and I told him to push off before I lost my temper. I got my sister into the tuk-tuk and headed back to her room, but by the time we get back my sister is unconscious. My sister is about 60 kilos, 5'8" tall. I get her out of the tuk-tuk, throw her over my shoulder, carry and walk up to the front desk. Imagine what this looks like, a big Aussie guy with an unconscious woman slung over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. I ask her for both of our room keys and a doctor to be sent to my sister's room. About 30 minutes later, a doctor arrives and after I sort out payment, he examined her. My sister has been drugged. It's now 2 a.m. The doctor didn't want to give her anything in case it reacted with the drug she was given. I was told to stay, keep an eye on her, and if she got worse, take her to the hospital. At about 6 a.m. my sister came around. She couldn't remember anything, not even going to the bar. I told her what had happened. She was really angry. She wanted to find the Swiss guy and sort him out. My sister has many years of Taekwondo under her belt and she would have taken him on. Anyway, we were awake and it was breakfast time. We decided to eat some local food, so went to the market and had some chicken and rice soup. Later that night we ended up back at Tum's bar. Whilst there, Tum was nowhere to be seen, so I was chatting to another girl. About an hour later, Tum comes into the bar, sees me chatting with this other girl and heads straight over to us and launches into an angry fit. I didn't know what was going on until the manager came over and explained to me about losing face. I assured her that I was only chatting with this other girl. I had made no plans with her at all. The manager smoothed it all over. I bought a few drinks for the lady manager and of course both of the girls. I decided to take Tum with me for the following 2 days. She took me all around the island to secluded beaches and attractions and of course shopping. It was a lot of fun. Tum asked me to buy her some gold earrings and a chain. I ended up buying her a bikini instead, as my sister had already warned me about the girls asking for gifts of gold. A little later into our holiday, I spent time with another 2 nice girls and kind of got over my shyness with regards to talking about bar fine prices. On day 8, my sister and I went to see the tigers. They had a baby tiger about 6 months old on a leash and people could sit and have photos taken with it. Good, I'll have my picture taken with it, I thought. So here I am getting my photo taken with the cub when the cub starts getting restless and pulling on its leash. I look over to the guy who brought the cub over to me to try and get his attention. At the same time, the cub bites my face. The bite left a 2 centimeter L-shaped gash under my right eye and blood was streaming out. The handler then suddenly started deleting photos of me on the camera he was holding. I've still got blood pouring out of under my eye. Then the manager comes over and has a really intense conversation takes place between the manager and the handlers. At this stage, the manager really doesn't seem to care about my injury. He's made sure that the photos were deleted and sort of shrugged it off as bad luck. So here I am with a tiger bite to the face and looking to get to the hospital. My sister steps in and tells the manager it is his responsibility. The manager just shakes his head. My sister now starts talking to all the witnesses and also starts taking names and addresses. Now the manager is concerned because my sister is going to report this to everyone. The manager decides that he will now take me to the hospital. My sister comes along to ensure that everything goes as it should. At the hospital, the manager talks to the doctors and arranges to pay for the hospital bill. I speak to the doctor who knows next to no English. He gives me a couple of pills to take, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up with the doctor finishing off the stitches. He hands me a mirror. He didn't just stitch up the L-shaped cut, he actually gave me a double lower eye lift. Now I'm really annoyed. They called over a nurse who spoke English quite well. The doctor said that the zoo have paid for my treatment and he thought I'd look better and younger if he did the eye lift. Well, it's a bit late. It's not as if you can sew them back on now, is it? For the next 2 days prior to leaving, I looked like I had gone 5 rounds with Mike Tyson. Stitches under both eyes and swollen. I was a real sight. For the next 2 days, I had drinks at different bars. The girls loved the story of how a tiger bit my face. They were all very sympathetic, sometimes kissing my poor eyes. 10 days went by so fast. Despite the tiger attack, I had now found my second home. From then on in, I would visit Thailand twice a year, going to Bangkok, Patong and Pattaya. On other trips, I went to Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore and Cambodia. I love traveling to Asia. I have missed going since the pandemic hit. I cannot wait to get back there and I see my friends in Thailand. Well, this happens so many times. I've met people who go to Thailand on their first visit and something happens to them, like this guy got bit by a baby tiger, or somebody gets something stolen, or they have a little bit of a problem, but they still fall in love with the country and they go back time and time again. And this is something, as I say, I've heard quite a few times. In this particular case, it's all about money in Thailand. If you're in the wrong, whatever the situation, you have to pay money to the other person. So obviously with this going on at the end, he wanted to delete those. They wanted to get rid of those images very, very quickly so that they could deny he'd even been there or the tiger had bit him, anything like that. All right, so let's move along now and jump straight in with our second story. So I really like this story. This is, I don't want to give too much away. It's really interesting. I'll just read it for you, but I think you'll really enjoy this. The title of this story is Phuket 1998 and the Rolling Ladyboy. Okay, this story contains what might be a few useful lessons for newbies. One of them is to be careful who you go on vacation with. I was 41 at that time and with my friend, who I'll call Giovanni, who was a few years older than me. On his last trip to Phuket, he had fallen in love with a go-go dancer and spent a fortune on gold for her. This was despite him having been there at least 20 times before and never doing anything like that. I guess that Cupid can strike any man at any time of his life, and when he does, the object of your desire becomes a goddess and you become her slave. We were all working in a richer Asian country. Even though there were hundreds of Westerners, you soon get to meet a lot of them or hear about others, especially if they work in the same line of business as you do. Giovanni liked to call himself a go-go bar kind of guy. He hated the games the girls played in the beer bars. Patong had 4 or 5 go-go bars at that time, all of which were to disappear very soon after. The most popular was Rock Hard, which had unusually a Falang woman assistant manager. Model in Soy Sea Dragon was arguably the worst go-go bar in the world and first to close. It was the only bar I ever ordered a beer, paid for it immediately and left without touching it. House of Horrors would have been a better name for the go-go bar. So myself and Giovanni left together for Phuket towards the end of 1998. He had told me that a third person I knew, nicknamed Roy Bart, would be joining us later, but neglected to mention there were another 4 people who, let's just say, I wasn't widely excited about when I saw who they were. We were staying in a resort called the PS Bungalows in Patong. On that fateful day, the other 4 showed up separately. 2 were brothers, renowned cheapskates and both sailing enthusiasts, who got nicknamed the Skipper and the Rear Admiral. The older brother had a thing about ladyboys. Then there was a gay guy, I'll call him Ralph. The 4th guy I'd never met, but his reputation had preceded him. He was a well-known pain in the butt, I'll call him Rudy. He was an ex-truck driver married to a nutty woman 25 years younger than him. She was so proud of her husband that she had still never told her parents about his existence. Rudy was famous for writing badly written letters to an English language newspaper complaining about the culture of the country he was working in. When Rudy introduced himself to me and Ralph, he said that unlike Giovanni, he was married and didn't do the bars, and added his self-inflated job title. Ralph snapped back, "What do you think we do then?" I warmed to Ralph after that. The nice thing about travelling alone is that you can do as you please and eat at whatever time you want. Rudy decided it would be great if we all ate together that night, and I didn't want to be a spoilsport. We went to this popular cheap joint opposite the Taipan nightclub. The meal was a painful experience. Rudy went on about things that any idiot could have told you about. When he ran out of boring trash to talk about, the 2 brothers yapped on about boats. The food was all bland stir-fried stuff in salty brown gravy without any spiciness. It was more like a Chinese takeaway. When Rudy said it was the best Thai food he had ever tasted, I decided I couldn't stand the present company any longer. Everyone went off to a bar on Soi Bangna called U2, except for me. There was this big new nightclub near Taipan called Shark. They had a happy hour until 10 p.m, so I ordered Mai Tai cocktails, which sure pack a punch. There were a few Thai girls, but not many customers. While I was getting quickly drunk alone, a pretty and very dark-skinned Thai girl came up to me and asked me if I wanted to dance. I'll call her Fern. What I never knew then was that she was basically a dancing hostess employed by the club for a small salary and made extra money from drinks and tips. Her English was good and she had a wicked sense of humour. We ended up dancing but nothing else. I'd gone on to Heineken, which was the only beer they sold, and left a half-full bottle on an empty ledge in front of some seating. When I went to retrieve my Heineken, there was about another 10 more bottles of Heineken there. Of course, I picked up the wrong bottle and some guy rudely snatched it back. I just walked away and bought another one. The next evening, I arranged with Ralph, the gay guy, to visit a few boy go-go bars. Don't get me wrong, I don't bat for the other side, but took this as an opportunity to see a side of Thailand most straight guys never get to see. It was an interesting night. We visited 3 bars and I made 3 observations. The first was that the bar fine and extras is less than in the girl go-go bars. The second was that some of the boys are not actually gay at all, but will turn the other way. A man I bought a boy drink for told me he was married to a woman and had a kid. The third was a bit of a shocker. There weren't just a few single Japanese women in there, but 1 or 2 of them were very young and very attractive. I'd have happily paid bar for them if such a thing was possible. Ralph, whose speciality was complaining to me about the lack of nudity in Bangkok, he told me that there were shows where the boys wore less. That same night, Rudy, the married guy who doesn't do bars, had gone with Giovanni to Christian, a large famous massage parlour. Sure, it's not a bar, but you can sit at a table checking out the ladies behind the large glass window while sipping a beer. Giovanni refused to tell me if Rudy had got a massage. One day, Rudy and Giovanni decided we would all relocate to Caron Beach. Patong was getting on my nerves a bit anyway, because it was so damn crowded. Less by single men than by annoying European families blocking up the sidewalks to take photographs. The dynamics of Phuket were changing. So I rented a Honda Dream to avoid having to deal with tuk-tuk drivers. More about that later. So off we all drove, a strange convoy of misfits, to a cheap old bungalow resort built into the side of a hill called Kata Tropicana, which cost only 350 baht per night. Rudy was so heavy that it was a miracle his bike did not collapse under his weight. I guess that was also wishful thinking from my part. The resort was situated right at the far south end of Caron Beach, which had an amazing sunset and clear water for snorkeling, which Patong did not have. There was a beer bar area within walking distance, a very subdued and many ladies beyond their sell-by date, but it was an amusing night. Roy Bart got challenged to a game of Connect 4 by a bar girl. He hated that game but came to an arrangement. The deal was that he would buy her a lady drink for every 5 games she won. His part of the deal was that if he won, he could touch her on the head, something that they say you should never do to a Thai person. Her reply was, "No problem, you touch my head, you touch me any place, but you're not going to win." He lost every game. I saw another sight which you could only see in Thailand. A drunken Norwegian with one sneaker on his left foot and nothing on his right. True to form, Rudy asked him if he had forgotten something. Seconds later, a girl comes running from a bar up behind him with the other shoe. As for me that night, I was glued to the TV watching the soccer. Another girl made me laugh, which got her a lady drink. She said, "You watch TV, I watch you." A couple of nights later, I made a trip to Patong because I was bored out of my mind in Caron. Driving these motorbikes scares the living daylights out of me, especially at night. So I had decided only to drink soda water, a very, very wise decision as it turned out. I paid a bar fine for an attractive beer bar girl, mainly for some company. You can take a girl out of the bar, but she is not always a bird in the hand for two in the bush. Her English was as good as my poor Thai. We ended up at a karaoke bar, by which time it was obvious she was too tired of pretending to like me, so I paid her for her time and she went home. I also decided to call it a night. I was just turning slowly out of a side road where I'd parked the motorbike when I saw another motorbike hurtling towards me at top speed without any lights on. In my panic, I slammed on the brakes by turning both rotating handles towards me. Unfortunately, as a motorbike rookie, I forgot that the right handle was the accelerator. The bike spluttered forward. The Thai maniac swerved past me and I collided gently with a parked tuk-tuk, falling off into the middle of the road. I was shaken but not hurt. My bike was fine, but the tuk-tuk driver pointed to a small dent in the door, much higher than the height of the motorbike. I didn't need to think what to do this situation. I handed him a 1,000 baht note, problem sorted. The next day, I rented an umbrella and a sunbed on Caron Beach. My usual routine. Giovanni joined me later. Rudy spent all day in an air-conditioned German restaurant working on his laptop and drinking beer. There's nothing like taking your work with you on vacation. The Cheapskate brothers would appear late afternoon and go snorkeling. Ralph had moved into a proper hotel. Giovanni told me what the Rear Admiral had got up to the night before. He'd got into an argument with a ladyboy about money. Instead of just paying her to go away like any normal person would have done, he had pushed her. She'd done a Jack and Jill by falling backwards, tumbling down this steep hill, and her screams had woken up most of the town. The hillside was littered with rusty cans, broken bottles and thorn bushes. Giovanni had told the two brothers over breakfast to get the hell out of town before a posse of ladyboys showed up for revenge, because he was paranoid about being targeted through association. The Rear Admiral just doesn't get it, but the brothers did check out and relocate to this even older and more rundown bungalow resort called Hello My Friend up the road. After hearing that, I made up a silly and childish song, but hey, when we lose the child inside us, I believe we lose an important part of ourselves. Everyone will know the tune. I dare Peter to sing it. Well, I'm not going to sing it, but I'll recite it for you. It goes something like, it goes like this. Rolling, 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 lady boy went rolling. Admiral just pushed one down a hill. That lady boy went rolling. Just like ten-pin bowling, but far too little force to make a strike. Get along, carry on, right or wrong, hang a right, hold on tight, on your bike, roar Bart. I had to rehearse that a couple of times because it was really hard to get out. Okay, on with the story. Years later, I sent the Admiral that song on Facebook as a joke. He deleted it and blocked me. Most days, late afternoon, I would jog barefoot on the sand, the 3 kilometers to the other end of Caron Beach, then back again. One evening, I got overtaken by this guy running like a maniac. When I got back to my starting point, he was there too, so out of curiosity, I asked him his time. It was ridiculously fast. He then told me he was a Swiss Masters sprint champion. In case you think I'm being a bit harsh on the guys I was with, there was another ridiculous incident which I was fortunately not there to witness. Ralph, Giovanni and Roy Bart had gone for lunch at a terrace restaurant in Qatar village called Blue Wave. Ralph wanted a dessert, so persuaded the other two to order apple pie with him even though they were full. The apple pie arrived, but Ralph's portion was noticeably smaller than the other two. He called the poor waitress over and complained bitterly. Roy Bart swapped his plate with Ralph, but the damage had been done and they left feeling totally embarrassed. Anyway, it was a couple of days later that I had some good fortune at last. I was doing my jog when suddenly a girl in a bikini ran up to me. It was Fern from Shark nightclub. She looked good in the light of day. So I stopped, even though I was doing my best ever run. I didn't recognise her at first because her hair was much shorter and straggly, so I guess she was wearing a wig the night I met her. We chatted a short while and I promised to see her later in Shark. This is exactly what I did and was even able to pay a bar fine after midnight. I told her I was staying in an old bungalow which wasn't very nice, so she said we could stay in her room. I liked this idea because I could also escape from the awful guys I was with. I hadn't been able to find a hotel because they were also all full. Her room was neat and tidy and quite big. She shared with another girl who was with her Swedish boyfriend someplace else, so we had the double bed to ourselves. I stayed there 5 days after checking out of that crappy bungalow resort, which got knocked down the following year. I had caught a bit of a flu, but felt so comfortable that I hardly left her place and watched a lot of strange Thai TV dramas which often had ghosts in them. Needless to say, she looked after me in a way that most Western men never get to experience. There were some outdoor food operations real close by, catering for all the bar girls living in the area. I'd give money to Fern to go out and bring us back cooked food. Not the damn chicken again, I laughed. Bar girls in Phuket love their chicken. Fern was from the Malaysian border. She had a baby at age 16 and married the father, a classmate from a respectable family. He was a good guy, but they were both too young and the marriage hadn't worked out. I felt that if things had been different, she would have gone to university with a better future ahead of her. She had a sharp and intelligent mind. She like most guys, I love a woman for her mind and I enjoyed her company. One afternoon, Giovanni showed up on his motorbike and I realised how lucky it was that I showed him one day where I was staying. Fern's room was on the outskirts of Patong, just before you get to that really steep hill towards Caron. Giovanni told me he had been to PS Bungalows to collect his guitar from storage and he was told an urgent message had arrived for me. I won't go into detail, but I was on a plane home the following day. I'd not mentioned money at all, but on the ride to the airport, I gave Fern 20,000 baht, currently 450 UK pounds, 520 euros or 620 US dollars. That's almost double what it was back then. She burst out crying. She said that that was a lot of money for a girl like her. That set me off too. We never kept in touch after that. 2 years later on, and another visit to Phuket with friends of my own choosing, I ran into Fern in a new nightclub called Tiger on Soi Bangla. She had had a boob job done which was way too top heavy for her small frame. She was with a younger guy but still found time for a brief chat with me. She said she needed another operation to make her bust smaller but didn't ask me for the money. She also admitted that after she met me the first time, she had imagined a life with a hair extension, gold bracelets and nice clothes. She said she was a fool for dreaming that, but would always remember me for my kindness. I hope she is now happily married with a nice family and no financial worries. So there you go. A lot of guys say that, don't they? When they bump into girls like this again, they say, or they lose touch with girls like this. They say, I hope she's having a nice life and she's met the guy of her dreams. The only other thing I'd like to say on this this story is, it's like I always say, this guy actually did the right thing. So when he is, from what I gather, his motorbike kind of just tapped into this tuk-tuk. The tuk-tuk already had a dent which was higher than the motorbike, so obviously his motorbike didn't do it. Now, he could have stood there and made a big argument about it. He would have come unstuck, but he did the right thing. He gave him the 1,000 baht and he walked away, and that's what the guy should have also done with the lady boy. But, you know, you can tell people till you're blue in the face. People do their own thing. So let's jump into the third and final story. This is quite a short story, but it's a little bit of a warning if you haven't been to Thailand before, and it's just, if you have been to Thailand before, then it's a good reminder. Right, here we go. Hi Peter, I've been to Thailand 18 times over the years. Here is my first experience of being conned. Not a long story. 5 years ago I went to Thailand on my own for the first time. I had no clue about cons or scams. I arrived late at night around 11 p.m. and was shattered, so decided to have a shower, go downstairs to the local 7-Eleven and buy some beer to drink in my room. My hotel was on Jomtien Beach Road. The first day I walked along the beach, just relaxing, stroll, and heard music I like coming from an open-end bar. Gilbert O'Sullivan, Queen, Bowie, Rod Stewart, etc. So decided to go in for a beer. As soon as I sat down, I had this young gorgeous girl sit beside me, and as you do, I bought her a couple of ladies' drinks. She explained I could bar find her and she could come out of the bar with me to keep me company and show me around. So I arranged to go back to that bar later and bar find her. We got on great and I bar find her for the rest of my holiday. I went for 8 nights. On my second night with her, I was not sleeping and caught her looking through my pockets. I was not stupid and had put all of my money, cards and phone, etc. in my safe in the room. When she was using the bathroom, I confronted her and told her to get out. She grabbed onto my leg and started crying. Me being naive back then, I decided to give her one more chance. Anyway, my holiday came to an end and I had no more problems that I was aware of. Later, I decided to go back to Thailand and had kept in touch with my bar girl called Bong while back home. When I arrived back in Thailand, Bong met me at the airport. We got back to Jomtien and the first couple of nights we went to her bar, played pool and listened to the music. Everything was fine until I told her on the third night that I wanted to spend a night alone as I had an upset stomach due to eating some dodgy food. I told her I would be back to visit her the next night. That night I was alone in my room, my stomach got better and I went downstairs and got talking to some Danish guys who were going on a BART bus to Pattaya. He asked if I wanted to join him and his friend, and I said why not, as I had not been to Pattaya, so yes, I would join them. We drank all night and I got my bill and it was 800 baht. In the morning I started to wonder what was going on. I did not know the prices and to be honest I hadn't really checked them. I hadn't even looked at my bill slips in the pot on the table. Alarm bells rang. I had been out with these Danish guys and only spent 800 baht and I'd had a great night and plenty of beer. When I went to Bong's bar, I never had much change at a 3,000 baht, and that was for drinks for only the two of us, and I was never drunk. Anyway, long story short, Bong came to my hotel the next day, and that night we went to her bar. I was ready this time. When we played pool, I kept watching the bar and my check pot on my table, and my suspicions were correct. I see the guy behind the bar put a piece of paper into my bill pot. I said nothing. Went back to the bar, ordered another drink for me and Bong. We played pool and again I kept watching. Lo and behold, I see one of the barmaids putting a piece of paper in my bill pot. I still said nothing until I was ready to leave. On my previous visits, I had never counted the slips in the pot. Trust, I suppose, plus I didn't want to look cheap by going through my individual bills. Anyway, I went to the bar and the girl behind the bar picked up my bill and went to total it. I think she said it was something like 2,700 baht. I looked at the slips and I said, that's mine, and then said, that's not mine, etc. They had been padding my bill. I told her that I am not paying for drinks I never ordered. They are not my bills. My real bill actually came to around 700 baht. Some Australian guys heard me and asked me what was going on. I showed them the bills. The bar staff said, sorry, mistake. As you know, it was not a mistake, but me being treated as if I was an idiot. Now, I don't care. I check every bill before I pay now. Plus, I look at my bill pot to make sure it's not getting pregnant by putting baby bills in it. Bong got her march-on orders and I never went back to that bar. Lesson learned, always keep an eye on your bills. Okay, so what I would say on this one, normally if you've got a regular bar you go in, if on the first and second occasion, say you go on holiday for a couple of weeks, you like a particular bar and you think, well, I'm going to come in this bar every night. And the first night you're very careful, you check the bills, you make sure the waitress sees you check the bills. Normally after the first night of doing that, you don't have to check them again, because what they'll do is, if you're one of these guys, they put the bill in your pot and you don't even look at it, and every time you're at playing pool and your pot's over there and they put another bill in it and you never check it. At the end you just say, check bin, how much is the total? And they just write the total on the top bill, 3,000 baht, and you just pay it. Then they'll do it every time to you. But generally speaking, believe it or not, most of the bars, they won't cheat you, because business is tough these days. I'm talking pre-pandemic, and if you're a good customer, they normally want to look after you, and they don't normally pad out the bills. You'll normally find it's the odd beer bar that does it. I'm sure people will leave comments and say they got bill padded in go-go bars. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but generally most of the bars are now honest because they want to keep your custom. But as I say, if you go in the first night you're there, you'll make sure the waitress or bar staff, they see you checking your bill carefully. You normally won't have to do it anymore. Some guys say, well, pay every bill separately, then you'll never have a problem, because, you know, in Thailand, if you've not been there before, you don't pay, like in the UK, you'll buy a drink, you pay for it, you buy another drink, you'll pay for that again. In Thailand, they keep putting bits of paper in a pot. At the end, they tally up and you'll get a total. And some guys will say to me, oh, I pay for every bill each time. Well, you know, that can be a bit unnecessary. You're always pulling out notes and you have to wait for your change. And it depends. You can do it if you want to. I don't do it. I just keep a note as they're going in. I look what I've got, and generally I don't have any problems. Okay, guys, so that's it for this week. There won't be a live stream this coming Friday because I did one last night. It's every other Friday, as you know. And just to reiterate what I said at the beginning of this video, the Nat and Dave videos, the animation series, they're not by a long way, they're not over. They only come out once a month now on the last Saturday, because Simon's extremely busy with his factory in Bangkok and he's the one who makes these animations. But we'll try and get one in for you every Saturday. And as I also said at the beginning, we're going to try and move the story along in a different direction now, just to keep it interesting, because it is a popular animation series. Okay, guys, thanks again for listening to me for over 30 minutes. I hope you enjoyed the stories, and I'll catch you next time.